when we talked about the internal reunion, as in the internal union where the polarities of masculine and feminine unite internally, and then there is a trinity because we have all three aspects, as you said.
Mhm.
How does the soul remembrance shift in that case? Because as you had said, that we are like buddies, and then we kind of ignite each other, and then we get into that God consciousness together in an accelerated way. But if somebody wants to do it on their own, then how does that soul remembrance shift?
Well, it's a very big part of the inward process, and when the inward, and again, when somebody says inward, there's so much obscurity, so much vagueness about that. But what I do with people is I gently walk them um, through the process of as many of the codes and frequencies that exist within the divine feminine first, typically, then the divine child, and then the divine masculine. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get them to softly remember things within themselves that are already there. They just have to be activated, and playing with those frequencies. And there's a bunch of them. Okay. And there's also these bridging frequencies and other armor frequencies and stuff like that. But I get them to remember, like, it's like feeding them. Like when somebody has amnesia and you're slowly giving them just something to mentally chew on. Okay. And then they start remembering more, remembering more. It's an inner process of remembering the frequencies, playing with those frequencies, and then embodying those frequencies. It sounds maybe a little complicated. It sounds a little bit lengthy, but it really isn't. It could be very quick if you get out of your own way. If you don't get out of your way, then it could take a while for you to do it. But when you start to do that and you start to remember that you actually embody all of these energies, there comes a point where at first you may have to play with it and act and pretend, but comes a point where it just becomes very natural for you to feel into those energies and start to emote them. But then there's a process that when your consciousness starts to rise higher and higher and higher, there's what's called an integrative process. And this is the real crazy part, okay? Because this is where you start to realize that you're not just embodying these various frequencies separately, you're embodying them collectively, and that everything around you and everyone around you has the same kind of frequencies. And so you can start to integrate your awareness to other aspects of what I would call yourself, which means that you can start to integrate. You don't do this, there's no exercise for this. This happens when you get to this level. It just starts to naturally happen, where you're starting to not only remember that you are the feminine, masculine, and child, you are the God consciousness embodying itself in a vessel, but you start to remember that all of this around you is also you embodying itself in this game you call your world, and you start to integrate with it. I'm telling you that it's at that point, you just literally sit back and start to absorb the integration, the game, the universe, the simulation starts to give it to you and show you, whoa, this isn't just me. I'm not just me. Forget me. I'm everything. And it starts to integrate those energies. That's what happens in 5D, where you start to come back into yourself, not just in those frequencies that are embodied in this energy you call your body, but all of it. And it's having gone through some of this, it's really a big challenge for the analytical mind. Because your analytical mind is so aware of itself being you, that it all of a sudden you're starting to feel the emotions. You're starting to not just feel the emotions, you're starting to experience the experiences of others as if they were you. And why? Because they are. Not you, the body you, but the you, the divine you. Does that make sense? So that really takes a little bit of head twisting massaging at first.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, that's the best way I can. It's hard to explain this piece because when it starts to happen, it really blows your mind that you are no longer just seeing the world through these set of eyes. You're seeing it integrating, and I could be sitting here with you, and all of a sudden, I feel like I'm in your consciousness, having experienced your story, all of it. I actually had that experience happen to me just yesterday, and it just happens. It's like I'm just talking to a student, and all of a sudden I'm experiencing their emotions as if I was living them, because there's a part of me that believes it's that person, because it is, because we're integrated together as consciousness. We only believe we're separated. This whole separation thing is just the illusion. So that's what happens as you move up in consciousness. It just starts to become part of the nature of your reunion with yourself, that you start to remember, I'm not just me. I'm everything. I'm everything. And we've had these discussions relative to, like, with your life and stuff, and the people that have been in your life, they're all aspects of you. And it gets to be a real mind twisting thing, like a really good Hollywood movie that really kind of leaves you going, what's going on? But that's how it is. That's how it gets to be.
Yeah.
So
So this whole remembrance process that you teach, and you coach people and mentor people on that. And you said that it happens once you reach a certain level, but you are also guiding people through that.
yes.
So does it have to be at the waking state conscious level? Because I can say from my experience that I get a lot of my downloads from dreams, and I would love to know your point of view about dreams, because I understand they are portals to other dimensions. And because we are multidimensional, we have our soul aspects or fragments of our soul across dimensions, across lifetimes, across timelines. And I
Yes.
do remember that there was this very intense soul journey that I did in my dream, where I was going from lifetime to lifetime, and kind of timelines and lifetimes, and I was integrating and retrieval, doing the soul retrieval. So, can you talk a little bit about that? How
Yeah.
did help?
Um, that
So,
it really, what I show people is what I call it the way of the inner child, but it's really the way as seen or viewed or taught by the inner child. And the difference is that the way, in many traditions, many cultures, many philosophies or religions, the way is just another way of saying the truth. Okay. And to simplify it makes it so much easier for somebody who, no matter where they're at, you could have somebody that's very far along in their remembrance or ascension process, but they've hit a point where they've become so saturated with all of their knowing that they start to, it gets a little messy, because they start to apply it too much in their 3D world. So they get lost there. Okay. They try to solve the world's problems using their ascension process, and they're really not there to do that. At least not at this point. They're really there to remember who they are, because if they can remember, then they know that they're in a dream, which is where we're going to get to in a second. Um, so if somebody is really further along, you try to simplify things for them, because they get too much in their minds and they start to overanalyze what they're supposed to do. And then what I discuss is in the book and stuff that I've done, is that I talk about that as being a delusional state of awareness, where they're misinterpreting what they are being shown. But then the simplicity of it also helps the people who are just getting started in their ascension process, and are just starting to ask the questions of, the simple questions: why am I here? What's my relationship and stuff? So how this all relates to dreaming is that this is a dream. This is a dream. Okay. We wake up from our physical dream, sleeping, and we go into our spiritual dream. And if we can understand the dynamics of what happens in a dream when we're sleeping and what we do when we're sleeping in our dream state spiritually is that, like, there's this thing called lucid dreaming, and that's when you start to become very aware that you're in a dream, and how aware you become helps you to then navigate through those dreams better. You can choose to be in the dream or not be in the dream, to change the dream in this way or whatever, or you can move to another dream if you like to. It's the same process in this dream. You have to become lucid, or another way of saying aware, just simply aware that you're in a dream. Okay. And this is where I was skating to, where you just pretend that you were in a dream. Okay. Just like you would do in a dream. Okay. Then you can use the same mechanics to start playing with how you manipulate your reality here. Okay. Dreaming, besides being a mirror to this dream, dreaming allows us to astral project and teleport ourselves through this game or through other dimensions as well. Dreaming is our way, it's our, let's call it our soul or our consciousness. It's our way in which we get to leave the body and see and experience all the other worlds or all the other lifetimes that we are living in right now, because there is no such thing as past, present, or future. Okay, so we're experiencing it all right now, and we get to play with that in the dream states. And if we could understand that better, we would start to understand at the very least, for those people who are sitting there and going, gosh, I wish I could do something supernatural. I wish I could astral project. And I tell people, you are astral projecting every single night. Every single night you're astral projecting. You're not doing it necessarily with intention yet, but at least recognize that you are doing it, because if you could do that, then you can start to intentionally help yourself to astral project even more. But dreaming allows you to see all the worlds that you are playing in right now as the divine intelligence. And so that's why you have dreams. I believe I may have mentioned this to you, but that's why you have dreams where you never see who you are. I can tell you that in all the dreams that I've had, even as lucid as my dreams have been, I have never seen myself in the mirror. I've never seen myself in water or any reflection. Now, there are some people that claim they have, and that's good. Because there's no right or wrong to this, but I'm saying the reason you don't typically see yourself in a dream is because if you were to see yourself in the dream, you would understand why in the dream you are playing with people in your dream that you don't even know who they are, but somehow for some reason you do in your dream. You have known them forever. But in this world, they don't exist because you're not in this world. And you are not even who you believe you are in the dream. You would look yourself in the mirror and you could be a man. You could be a little boy. You can be whatever, but you don't see that, because if you were to see that, it would start to create those little cracks in the illusion that make you start wondering, what the hell is this really all about? Why am I seeing myself in different images? Because you're seeing yourself in other games, but you don't ever get shown that or taught that, because that would start to break the veil down. Yep, that's it.